facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. We're on Win-Win Women Network. I've got an incredible another host from Win-Win Women TV shows and podcasts and Roku and Apple, all these streaming services. And here it is, August 30th, 2023. I don't know how that happened, but here we are. And I'm going to introduce you to my guest, LeAnn Lyon, in just a moment. Cannot wait for you to get to know who she is and her powerhouse messages that she's got. But first, we do a little mini vacation, a little meditation that takes 22 seconds. And I encourage you to do it often during the day. You can go, so what we're going to do is breathe in for 7 seconds, calm. Hold for 4 seconds and then breathe out gratitude. Just a little centering. Helps me, hope it helps you. Ready, set. Here we go. Breathing in, calm. Hold. Release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So here we are. Ready to roll with another episode number 26 already, with the Charla Anderson Show. And it's just been an incredible journey. I've met so many amazing people, not the least of which is my guest today, LeAnn Lyon. She's on the executive team with Win-Win Women. She's the one that actually encouraged me and sold me on the idea of having my own show. And I believe it's getting ready to just explode around the world. We're going to do a lot of big things and big events in the next few months. So looking forward to all that. So I got to meet LeAnn personally in Utah at a retreat with only about a dozen of us. And it was just one of those amazing times that, we ended up calling it like a magical weekend. Things just kept being so synergistic and so beautiful and so supportive with each other. And so LeAnn is here today as my guest, and I'm just going to say, LeAnn, let's talk about who you are in this world, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you do. So here you go. It's all yours.
Great. Well, thank you, Charla. First of all, it's an honor to be here. I really do appreciate it. It's fun to be out, and I have my own show, as you mentioned, with Win-Win Women. I started after you, which I think is fun because, we talked in January and you said, this is my year. I'm going to learn new things. I'm going to do new things. And we agreed that this was a good fit for you. And you got in and you started, you went forward. And somewhere in between meeting you and you launching is when I realized I was also going to start a show. But it took a little bit more time. It took a little bit more to put things together and put other things up to bed, so to speak, so that I had the time to do this. So I am an executive member of the executive team of Win-Win Women. I have my own companies, which are called Joy Minder under my LLC. I am launching a new company next week or so, God willing, called Joy Minder Marketing, which is a company that helps businesses that are on NowSite. And I'm still putting together some of the details and the programs and who we help, but NowSite is just an amazing platform. It's kind of an all-in-one. Everything you need to do to market your business can be done from one place. And you, Charla, have experienced how easy it is. So I love doing that. I have a background as a teacher. I was on, fun little story. I was on GoDaddy this morning for a little bit of help because I recommend go to GoDaddy if you're going to get URLs. They have amazing customer support. The guy I'm talking to said, "Oh, I'm from Minnesota." And and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I used to live up in this area." And I'm like, "Did you happen to go to this middle school? Because I was a teacher there." And he didn't, but it was so fun that, you could be talking to anyone anywhere and have those types of connections, which, my dear, you are brilliant at.
Small, it's the world is so small. It's almost miraculous how day in and day out you mention something and it shows up. You mention I do believe somebody's out there listening. If I think something and the ad shows up on Facebook, I don't know how it knows that I thought about it, but
I do. Actually, at 2:00 this morning, I may or may not have gone into my iPhone and searched settings for microphone, and I realized I had 30 different apps that were using my microphone, including Facebook. So if you wonder how they know, that's how they know they are listening. And you've given them permission to listen. So I turned off.
Even to our thoughts, and I'm not kidding about that. I will think about somebody I need to call, something I need to do, or something. That. Yeah. And I'm like, so this is my way of saying it. God is working in warp speed. I mean, he is, you think it, you better want it, because your thoughts matter. Your thoughts become things, and that becomes who you are, and who you say you are is who you are. So be careful what you say. Of course, that's my message always. Every word matters. And being aware that that's the case. But I do believe that even scientifically, they're talking about that, back in the day, the Schumann resonance was 7 or 8 or 15, and now it's in the 80s and 100s. And so an hour is still an hour, but it moves really fast. And I think we can all relate to that, right?
I saw an article just the other day. I think it was in the New York Times. I did not read the article, but they were, in the New York Times, which is a fairly major publication, posturing that there is a sixth sense of telepathy, that it's real, and that they are beginning to be able to prove that to a degree. So that was an interesting read. Yesterday, I was on my way home from helping. I'm also a realtor. I was helping an amazing family get into $1 million home. There's God all over this transaction, trust me, including the fact that I'm working with them, because there were moments when I was like, I don't think I'm the right fit for this. I think I should, but I just had a clear stick with it. And in my heart. So I did. And yesterday, as I was driving home, I was like, oh, I just really wish I had somebody to talk to about what we just experienced. But, I'd been talking to these people all day. My husband's at work. My mom and sister weren't exactly the right fit for who I wanted to talk to. And bing, on my phone, a friend popped up. Hey, how you doing? And I'm like, hey, Siri, reply to the message, call me. And she called. So what you're saying, I was thinking I could really, and she was the exact right person to do this. Are you ready for the rest of the story?
Oh, yeah. Oh, more. And wait, there's more.
There's more. So she called. And I said, I have just been through the most crazy situation. And I kind of described it. And she said, first of all, how about we shift the word crazy to divine? Oh, there we
Chills.
go. Do I want more crazy or do I want more divine? Because our words matter. But here's the kicker. The story I shared with her about this amazing family getting into this amazing home, she heard, that was the third time she'd heard that story, not with this particular family, but with other people in other situations getting into homes that they couldn't even imagine or that they couldn't even afford. 3 times in 3 days.
Wow.
And all of it was going right through this one woman, right?
And then she called you.
And then she called. And she said, I really had it in mind to follow up on our conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago. But just as I started texting you, she felt in her soul not to say what she was going to say. And that's why she said, just checking in, how are you?
And I believe that when you say it's in the New York Times, that indicates that the things that I've known for a long time in my spirit is becoming a little more mainstream. I'll just say, yeah. So when they have it in a publication like that, and many of us have lived it, for decades. I mean,
been called crazy.
And now, in high school they said you're weird, and I was going, you're weird, and I was going, thank you. I like weird.
Yeah, no, I love when it does kind of come around and get into the mainstream. I mean, it's everything from I was selling supplements in 2001. We had our own company. They were our own brand. And people were like, why do we need supplements? Supplements are stupid, and now find a house that doesn't have some supplements in it.
The food. Yeah. If you're waiting on food to give you the nourishment, it's not working. The quality and the of our food. I heard not too long ago an apple, had so much nutrients, and now it's about an eighth of that. The nutrients in 1950s with an apple is now an eighth or a tenth. You'd have to eat 10 apples to get the same nutrients, and that's not credit. We can't do that either.
No, right. It's all over the place. So yeah, by all means, know what your food is, eat whole foods, don't do the processed foods, reduce your sugar, reduce your salt. I'm aware that my face and my lips and my voice are not matching right now. So close your eyes and listen. You'll be better off. But hopefully my computer will find its way back again. And that's what I'm really working on right now. I'm working through a Tony Robbins 10-day The Body You Deserve program. And today it's an hour and 17 minutes of audio, along with things that I have to do. And, but it's amazing. I'm really
well, and that's a motivation. You've got to master. We really know what to do. I mean, most of us pretty much know. We know what to eat. We know how to eat better. We know all that, but actually taking the action on that. So you have accountability by making that step, right? So good for you.
Yes, that. And I will say, I mean, I'm in my mid-50s, and when today he started talking about binging, and you think, well, I don't binge. Well, then he defined binging. And I'm like, oh, totally binge. But it's really, he talks about the fact that most of us do eat emotionally. And that's something that I had never owned up to before. I'd never really owned up to the fact that I eat emotionally. And I would have just kind of, even to the fact that I brought my mood altering substance with me to the show. It's coffee. Right? But we do these things. Why do we drink coffee in the morning? Because it's morning. Because
it's more habit. A lot of it is habit, but I love it. I love coffee. I'm not going to give up coffee. And God, honestly, I'll just kind of put this out there, because my observation over the decades is, when my mom was cooking with oleomargarine instead of butter because the calories. Well, nobody a decade before that knew there wasn't anything talk about calories, right? Everybody ate bacon and sausage and eggs and toast and, gravy, and nobody was fat because they were eating real food. And there's nothing wrong with the lard and the butter. It helps your brain, and especially, young men need more of that to keep their their masculinity high. And then I just observed over the years, as things kept becoming things that were natural, sunshine, salt, really coffee, eggs, things that are just in our world, started getting demonized, and so that they could maybe sell us something else down the road. Oh, so just a food for thought on that.
Yeah, 100%. My mother noticed when she was, now in charge of feeding children, she would go to the grocery store and there was regular tomato sauce and there was low fat tomato sauce. Like, really? But the low fat tomato sauce, to make it taste good, was super high in sugar.
And
And
salt.
I
Yeah,
don't know if
both.
you can
And
see this, but this is my wrist. I just took off my Fitbit. We have a boat, and I spend as much time on the boat as I can. And do I wear sunscreen? Only really if I'm going to be out for like the whole day. Like, at some point, there's a little bit of getting too much, and I don't like to get burned. We do understand that burning is a bad idea. But for the most part, I stay on my boat. I stay covered on my boat. And the sunshine that I'm getting is reflection off the water, and my body can take it.
so guess what? My son, I just had conversation with him about this exact thing. He's a Marine up in Washington, D.C., and I got to see him a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
But he said, I learned this. It just made common sense. Billions of people have gone through and been, gone through living on this earth without sunscreen and without all these extra
Right.
products, and they survived and they're fine. And my son was like, we need D. He said, I won't even put it on if I'm going to be out all day and I get burned. He said, I know our skin and our bodies, if God can create it, he can heal it. That's what I say. But the skin on our bodies is designed
Yeah.
for sunshine. And
Yeah.
so I think that I'm a rarity, because my sisters, I would always be out by the pool and I never wore sunscreen, because I know that there's studies going, those chemicals that they put in that stuff is much worse for you.
Yes.
So, and if I'm not going to be dumb, and I don't want to feel sunburned the next day if I'm going to be out, like you said, in literally all day long, I would put something on. And I'm sure there's plenty of natural things that I'm
There are.
not
There's
sure
some
what they
really
are,
great
but
products out there. Just
but
go.
the deal is, why are we substituting fake things, fake fat, fake salt, fake sugar, fake, I think
By the
artificial
way.
sweeteners is the worst of all. So just saying
Yeah.
that. But why are we substituting all that? And they're cheaper, I'm sure, generally speaking, than organic and all that right now. But
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know them.
we can go down the conspiracy theory road on there as well. But if you create a need, but let me finish up a little bit with what Tony Robbins was saying
Oh yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
too, is that he said, look, they're really, like, I think you were kind of saying this. It's not that coffee is bad. There's no bad food. We can say that there's whole food and processed food. And I might put, processed food into the lower category of energy food. We can do higher energy food, lower energy food. Let's do more high energy, more higher water content foods. That makes a lot of sense. However, Tony Robbins shared the story, so I'm sharing his, but somebody came home with a box of cookies and they were no sugar cookies and they really tasted good. And he had one. He's like, that was so good. And he went back later in the day to have another and the box was gone. So Tony Robbins, of course, has a cook. And so he asked his cook to go get, my CC cleaner just popped up now, which is hilarious. Anyway, so he asked his cook, hey, go get a couple more boxes of those cookies. And the cook came back and, later in the day, Tony's like, I'm going to go try one of those cookies. Both boxes are gone. Well, now he didn't just want a cookie. He needed a cookie. His cravings, his urging, his binging, his desire to binge on cookies was getting high, right? It goes up. Why? Because of scarcity. And he tells another story about scarcity. But the more we think that if we don't have it now, we're never going to get it, that's emotional eating. Because it's generally not true. Now, you can think of all sorts of exceptions to this or whatever else. But so finally he told his chef, he's like, go get 20 boxes of cookies. And he did. And he brought it back. And there's 20 boxes of cookies. And Tony Robbins himself went and grabbed one box and ate 2/3 of it himself. And by the end of the day, like 3 boxes of cookies were gone. Now, yeah, you stick your tongue out, but I mean, this is what we, you create this desire and all this kind of thing. Well, the next day he's like, oh yeah, I want some of those cookies. And he had a couple. And the third day he had one. And then he didn't have them anymore at all. Why? Because when he opened the cupboard, there were plenty there. The scarcity was gone. And then he started, and by the time he had the one, he was like, they're not that great. And so the thing is, we can create all of this in our heads. And, I'm thinking right now there's a restaurant in Minneapolis. It's so good. This Italian homemade pastas, ink pasta, gnocchi. I mean, they have this gnocchi there that just unbelievable. It's so good. And I remember eating there one time, and this was a time when I was trying to be conscious of my food intake and all that. And I took the first bite and I was like floating off into heaven. It was so good. And the second bite and the third bite, I was eating it slow and really enjoying it. And then I got about halfway through and I realized I was just eating. The sensation of how was it any less tasty? No, but I had already gotten used to it. And at that point, I needed to really think, do I need any more? Is there any more in me that needs, am I feeding now my emotions, my habits, or my body? And if I'm
your childhood clean your plate things. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into all that for sure.
Yeah. And actually I started working on a book last night, and that may or may not be part of my first chapter.
So I'm going to talk to you about that. But what I want to, before we do move to that, one of my words I think of this year, I had completion and regal and savor. And I've kind of forgotten that one until just now. But savoring, I read this lady's most treasured moments. One of her most blessed moments is a beautiful piece of rich chocolate cake that she literally savors. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage people, if you're going to eat the cookie or the pasta, enjoy every bite, because if you're going, well, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm telling you, your body is going to hold on to it instead of releasing it. And if you just enjoy it, if you're going to eat it anyway, enjoy every single morsel and receive it as a blessing, a gift, and a nourishment to yourself. I think that the training we could do for our kids and just start, instead of just, run by and grab something. And I was a flight attendant all those years. And, we served food back in the day and there was always leftovers, or not always, but often leftovers, and like ice cream sundaes. Oh my gosh. So let me run grill. And one day I was like, I'm going to just say no. And if 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later, I really, really still want it, then I would go and scoop out a little, whatever. So it's a mindset around food that we've kind of lost the idea even of savoring our food. It's all shoving it down as fast as you can while we're doing something else.
And of course, there's all the great techniques. I mean, I talked to my husband about this. I was like, you know what? We've lived in this house for a year and we've eaten at our table a dozen times because, hey, we're both home. We've been worked all day. We're watching TV. Let's just eat in front of the TV, which, by the way, is about 3 feet from our table. We could sit at our table and watch TV, but we don't. We sit on the couches in a relaxed position and we watch TV, mindlessly eating, instead of having a conversation with each other, instead of putting our fork down between bites. It just eat on rote. And then I wonder, why I'm not this, not where I wanted to be at this point in the boating season. And so, it's these habits, just eat, pause, drink some water, have a conversation, put your fork down between bites, all these really great habits. But
I used to go to a restaurant. I lost, after my last baby, I decided to lose, we still had weight restrictions back then with flight attendants. I was going to get back to my weight restriction, which is ridiculous if you stop to think about it now, how low they were. But I was never trouble reaching it. I mean, I was always small. And but I came up with some thoughts around that. One of them is savoring. One of them is just say no and then making a decision. And one of them was like, okay, if I don't eat this, most of the time we go, if I eat this, I'm going to regret it. Yeah, but so what? And I changed that. So if tomorrow, will I have cared if I ate this? I kind of projected to tomorrow. Will I have cared if I had actually had this, whatever it is today? And there were, in the big scheme of things, there's so few meals that are so memorable that I would really find it worth, having. So I had a lot of little tricks that made a big difference for me. Just saying no was probably the easiest one. Yeah. And then intentionally choosing later. So that I was going somewhere with that and I don't know where it went. So, oh well. Anyway, I had no idea we were going to be talking about this conversation about the food because it's such an important topic, and we can find ways, but I do believe intentionality around food is probably the biggest key.
Oh, 100%. And, I've been practicing intermittent fasting intermittently. Just kidding. But when I practice it, I feel my best. I have more energy. And by the way, I have fewer decisions I have to make because I choose, okay, I'm stopping eating at this point. I'm going to let my body rest. I'm going to let my body digest. I'm going to let my insulin slow down and level off, and all the things that intermittent fasting can do. And I have an app that I use called Fastic, and it reminds me, hey, that 4 hours later, this is happening. 11 hours later, 14 hours later, 16 hours later, this is what's going on in your body, and it's positive. And so then when I choose to re-engage with food, then I'm much more intentional. What am I going to break my fast with, which is breakfast, right? And you know what? It's sometimes eggs, but usually after a little bit of fiber or a little bit of fruit, a little bit of something. So there's all sorts of theories on what you eat when and all the different things. But just that pause and those decisions. I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. And I think it helps. I'm going on a cruise this evening, a 2-hour business networking cruise on the Mississippi River. Actually, it's on the St. Croix River, which is a river between Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I know there will be food there, food and drink. And my husband and I typically don't have any alcohol during the week. And it's, we're recording this, of course, on a Wednesday. So there's that. And I know there's going to be food there, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be nothing there that I've never had before or couldn't have again tomorrow. Now, if there is, perhaps I'll make the decision to have a little bit, but, just realizing that it's a choice. And also, will that make a difference for where I really want to go with my health, with my body, and with my life in the next couple of years? Really, will that piece of cheese help or not? So at the same time, you need to eat. Our bodies do live on food. So,
and protein is necessary. Like we said a little earlier. So, I mean, it's so interesting how I call diets die with a cross at the end, so many diets are not designed to help us better. It might be Kickstarters, but anyway, so I wanted you're Tony Robbins. We're going to go back to that. You're Tony Robbins, you're John Maxwell, you're Win-Win Women, you're Joy Minder, you're how many hats do you actually wear?
I think I've gotten it down to where I really say 2. Although I have been trained by Tony Robbins, although I am certified with John Maxwell, although I keep my my black belt handy because it reminds me of what I've done, what I've accomplished, what I can do. None of those things are really my jobs. None of them are my career. They are all part of who I am, but I wouldn't call them hats, if that makes sense. So really my two hats is that I do help and support win-win women, and I have my company with Joyminder, period.
And lots of things come from that. And
Sure.
ultimately the marketing, you're a master, a miracle worker around marketing. You're an expert in NowSite. You mentioned earlier, NowSite is an AI driven program that I had amazing experience with that. And LeAnn, anybody out there that wants, the gift of having someone that knows the ropes when you're learning something new, and you can, she has got live office hour where you can call her or text her or whatever, and in specific time frames, right? And so you're setting it up for a big success for most of us that get overwhelmed or can't quite figure out, why can't I make that color picker work, and stuff like that. So, I'm glad that I've witnessed your change this year. You decided after I did to become a show host. You were already in Win-Win Women, but here you are a show host. Here you are choosing to open up a different version, I guess, of your marketing business and making it more for you rather than kind of free for all. You are helping a lot of people and not getting much personally yourself, is what I understand. And so you've really come a whole long way around all that.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on something I haven't really admitted to very much, but I was probably experiencing a bit of a trauma response for the past 4 years to the closing of a business that was it was an unwanted closing. It was very sudden. It was very painful. And like many people going through any kind of loss, and I've been through a few, there's a trauma response that's natural. We would be weird if we didn't experience to some degree. My typical response to trauma is to pick myself up and keep going. And there's nothing innately terrible about that, but it also doesn't allow for a lot of healing. And so you have to, it took me 4 months to get back to, I can do this and I feel confident and this is my time to do this. Meanwhile, thankfully, God blessed me and many other people that I was able to support other businesses and do other things during that time. And I really became the expert that I am because I was willing to get out there and just help people for honestly, almost for free. And, that time has come to move past that. I'm thrilled to help. Really, I love helping people. I'm, like I mentioned, trained as a teacher. Please put me in front of somebody who wants to learn something. And I am just so happy.
Well, and you're so good. I mean, literally, some teachers are just teachers. You have a gift, and you can make complicated things simple and easy, and you're calm and you're peaceful, and it's so well received for those of us that are not that. You're a techie. You sold your first software when you were 11 years old, you said, to something like that, or was that it?
I did. I wrote computers, and again, I'm in my mid 50s, so in the 70s is when personal computers really started coming out, and they started appearing in classrooms. And so I started playing on computers in classrooms in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And about 6th or 7th grade, my father came home with a Commodore 64. 64 megabytes of power. And now our iPhones have 8 times that much, easily, if not more. So on that computer, I used something called basic programming, and I wrote a very small program that my mother's boss bought from me to make her job easier.
Amazing. So you've got that foundational nerdiness or something. Totally. So I want to ask you another question. Zig Ziglar always said, Have you written your book yet? Have you written your book yet? Every time I saw him talk to anybody, have you written your book yet? And so you posted this morning, and we touched on it a minute ago, but you posted this morning that in the night, something came to you that that's your next step. One of your next steps, I believe, is to pull your book together. And do you want to share a little bit about I would say not magic, but the mysteriousness of how that came to be in the middle of the night and where you might take it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Zig Ziglar would do that and say it that way. I don't think it's something you can force, because what I wrote about on Facebook this morning is that when I was 7 years old, when you're 7 years old, I think we have a really innate sense of who we are actually already. A lot of 80% of the programming we run in our brains today was formed before we were 7, 90% by the time we were 18. So only 10% was really formed in that 11 years, and only 10% ever since. So we run, if you think of a computer has an operating system, your phone has an iOS operating system. We have operating systems, and that operating system was formed before we were 7. Much of the program when we run, clean your plate, everything else is running on that operating system. And my operating system is running really slow on this computer right now. So close your eyes and just listen. But the knowledge that I was going to write a book was when I was 7. And so throughout my whole life, I've been like, what's this book I'm going to write? What's the book I'm going to write? I've asked myself this question. Is that what I'm supposed to write? And one of the things was that as much as I've been through, the many times I've been through trauma, people say, oh, you should write a book about that. And I'm like, why? Why would anybody want to read my trauma? How could that possibly help them? And, how would I make this into something that would really benefit other people? And so I finally, I tried to force it once in a while. Okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write fiction. Well, I'm not even a fiction writer. So, okay, I should take classes. And then, I don't take that. I've never taken a class, but I thought about it a lot because I'm like, I'm supposed to write a book. I'm supposed to write a book. And then literally last night, and I think it's a combination of being ready, being past this most recent trauma enough, being in the courses like this one with Tony Robbins, and having connection with people. One of my clients wrote a book called The Eggshell Effect. Wish I had it handy, but it's upstairs. And that informed me because it actually lays out how I'm going to write this book. How he wrote it is his story, but I see how he wrote it being his story can really help a lot of other people. And now I was given my focus. I was given my stories. I was told which stories I'm going to share. And yet I found out it's going to encompass all the stories, but ultimately it's going to be about helping other people. I did notice and this person's not visible here, but another show host has joined us, and she's a big part of why this happened last night too, believe it or not. So her story and her journey, I think, has been percolating in my brain, and it just all came together last night at 1:30 in the morning. And how things happen. So I was on Eric Worre. I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but he's a professional network marketer. I was on his event last Saturday. In the event, I realized, I could be transcribing what he's sharing. So I got Otter, which is a great app, and started using it and transcribing everything. Well, I had to pay $16 to get it for the month. And I'm like, fine, this is worth it. The way I can go back and review it. Well, then don't you know, at 2:00 in the morning, it's on my phone already. All I had to do was turn it on and start talking. I wrote the introduction, first 2 chapters of my book last night, and it's already transcribed on Otter, ready for me to start editing, because I know that editing is a big, big, big deal. But yeah, how's that?
Amazing. Amazing. When the time when it's God says yes, it's like, got this. Yes. So true. Wow. I mean, this was this morning. So
It's this morning.
Do you have a time frame? Right.
Yes and no. I know that, I dumped everything I could into the transcription this morning. Literally was up till 4:30 this morning. I will continue. But like I said, I'm in a process right now in this beautiful woman in our audience right now, Shantae, I'll say her first name. Even counseled me. She's like, take it step by step, take it meal by meal. Don't put the pressure on yourself. One other brilliant thing that Shantae shared, and all credit to her, is she said that the journey will be what we make it. If we decide the journey will be hard, if it will be challenging, it's the words we assign to it that will make it so. And that was just another illumination to me. I'm like, oh, so I can make this peaceful. I can make this fun. And Tony Robbins said the same thing. He said, hey, this does not have to be a challenge for you. This can be a fun process if you decide it will be.
Hit the easy button.
Hit the easy button.
Let's have a life of fun and ease. And I say often, I'm like, everything is always working out for me. Oops, I didn't get the red light like I wanted. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm sure that everything is about gratitude with me, but I'm sure there's a reason. Your timing is perfect, mine not so much. Those kind of things. I'm always thank you, thank you, thank you.
47 years of God saying not yet on writing a book. 47 years, and honestly, 47 is a divine number. Oh, I think it's prime. I'm pretty sure it's a prime number. I'm almost positive it's a prime number. That for me, I mean, I'm not a numerology person at all, but I'm a math person, and prime numbers are special. That's cool.
So I've actually made you co-host for a reason. So I cannot read what Shantae or whoever's chatting in the chat, and would love to have Shantae join us for live conversation if she's able and willing. I know she was usually at a job. So can you find that out while you're doing that? Because I'm not.
Since I'm the techie, we're gonna talk about how you get your chat outside of your Zoom so you can do this.
No, I know how to do that. However, I have a 13-inch monitor, and it's past my arm's reach. I can't see it. It's more my physical limitations than so
we'll get you there. We'll get you an external monitor that you plug in, and you'll be good.
I've got a big external monitor. I just don't have room for it. So
there we go.
Okay. It's all good. So can Shantae join us and comment, or whether she's on screen or off screen? Can she comment?
She can. Yep, she's willing.
Yippee skippy. There she is. This is our superstar. Woo, woo. Next Level Conversation Magazine, all this stuff with your show. Woo.
Yeah.
Today.
Yours is this evening. Yeah, I can hear you.
We can see you too.
Okay, cool.
Yep. All good.
And I'm so excited about your book. And I just read your post about when you were in grade school. Was it second grade?
Yeah. I moved schools in second grade. And so as I was being shown around the school, I remember I went into the library, and I was already a reader. I already loved to read. In fact, the little girls next door they're twins. They're going into third grade this year. And I told them the story of my third grade teacher had a reading shack in the corner of the room. And if you earned the points, you could sit in the reading shack and read all the books you wanted. And I was there all the time because I wanted to be in the reading shack reading books. That's what I did. And even already by third grade, but second grade too, they brought me to the library, and I grabbed the librarian, and I was like, that's where I want you to put my book when I write it. And I remember it was like the second stop up, it was about 10 feet inside the door to the left. I went back to that library actually, probably 2 decades ago now, and they had reconfigured it. And so, whatever had been in that area was, it doesn't matter. I didn't have any sense of what section I was pointing. I just wanted it to be where I could reach it probably. But I wanted to be able to find my book once she had it in that library. So
I think that's phenomenal. And I love how God gives us glimpses of the future that he has for us at a time when you just don't even expect it. Who would have expected it in the second or third grade? And then you manifesting it right now, all these years later. I think I love it. I absolutely love it.
For such a time as this, literally.
And it really was part of my all the time. I've wondered, well, am I supposed to write about this? Am I supposed to write about that? Is this what I'm, and, but it was never a clear yes until literally this morning. So just like I can say, Joyminder Marketing was born, I think it was June 6th at 4 p.m. I mean, that's how clear I was about starting Joyminder Marketing, which I'll be launching this fall. The book doesn't have a per se, you asked Charla, what that would be. I don't know, because I think I haven't written the end of the book yet. I haven't reached the end of this part of this journey that I will share. And I'm sure that I will publish a book, if I publish it at all. Whenever I decide the book is complete, I won't be at my end of my journey at all. But I will get to a point where I feel complete in what I've done, and then I might move on to something else. But I'm looking forward to that. But I'm also patient. Kind of like teaching you how to use NowSite.
It does take patience for sure.
Well, I'm excited. I know you said in your Facebook post you're going to be journaling this journey for, I want to say, the next 55 days or something to that effect. You're about to have a birthday.
Yeah. So it was just, again, I'm all about doing more and more to listen to God's words in my life. I have not necessarily been great at that, although I know he's walked with me every step of the way. My ears are burning right now. Thank you. And, but I'll give you a couple of examples. It was about a year and a half ago. No, closer to 2 years ago. I was talking to the owner of the house that I'm sitting in now. And he said he wanted to sell his house someday. And I had this word that said, you're going to live there. And here I am. Mm-hmm. And, I say that just to let you know, I'm here living with my husband of 28 years. So no funny business there. That's not how I got to living in this house. Just to be jokey and funny. But no, he wanted to leave. He wanted to get out. He's also a very private person. He hated the idea of going on the typical real estate market. I'm a realtor, as I mentioned, and I was able to, as soon as my husband and I saw it, we thought, this is exactly what we've been looking to do. This is exactly what we wanted. But we put offers on 3 other houses, big offers, when the market was super hot a year and a half ago. Never even got a maybe.
Really?
Shut down. Last one, 80,000 over asking, shut down. Not even a maybe. And then finally, this guy was ready to say, yes, you can come look at it. And that's, as soon as we saw it, my husband said, I guess we're putting in an offer. I said, I guess we are. And I never had told him that I'd already had this knowing. I already had this thing. I made legitimate, great offers on these other places because I knew that we needed to do that. That was part of our process as well. But yeah. So when I have these intuitions now, I'm a little bit better at listening to them. I missed a point that we were talking about, but maybe it'll come back.
I think you covered it all. It's truly, and we've talked about it so multiple places in this conversation today that, God is working in warp speed. I believe that we're really manifesting really, really quickly right now. As we're learning to listen is what it is. Really, we're learning to be discerning. The synchronicities and the miracles are all over the place. And when we're allow ourselves to receive, so often we're so busy, we're not listening. So the be still and know is a huge piece of that.
Right.
So,
I do
you're
remember
manifesting it right now.
the thing that got me on that story was hashtag 55 by 55 joy. If you go to hashtag 55 by 55 joy, you'll see that one day, randomly, this random thought came to me before my 54th birthday. It was on a Wednesday. And I had this thought, I wonder what day my birthday will be on next year. Okay. Hey, Siri, stop, don't do it. What day will my birthday be on next year? What day will, and I gave my birthday and it was a Wednesday. I'm like, oh, how many weeks from now is that? And it was 55. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I have 55 weeks before my 55th birthday. And again, kind of a number person. So I'm like, huh. And I'd been seeing posts that people have been putting out, 40 lessons I've learned, sharing it on my 40th birthday, 50 lessons I've learned, sharing it on my 55th birthday. That seems so stressful to me, to have to sit down and come up with 50 or 40 things on the day. But here I am, 55 weeks before my 55th birthday. I can do one a week. So it's literally scheduled on my calendar every Wednesday morning for me to put out one post a week. And then this was post number 7. So my post number 7 today was called Be Curious.
Miraculous stuff going here. And so I find this kind of interesting. On I think it was Saturday or Sunday, I was getting gas and I just pulled up and a memory popped up and it was like, I'm going to be 10 years ago memory popped up and I'm going to be sensational for 60. And here I'm like, well, that's a decade ago. Here I am pushing 70 this. And so I looked at how many days, September 22nd is 70 days to 70. And I was like, and so I just find all this kind of funny that, here we are, but I had 60. I don't know what I did for 60. And I don't think I ever made a big deal out of it as it turned out, but 70 days is 70. What do I want to do? Maybe y'all have some ideas. I don't know.
And I do believe these number things, this is personal, but there's numbers throughout the Bible. God works in numbers. 7 days is the number of completion. That's all.
8 is new beginnings, and 5s I've had for decades now. I've got 555. I see it all the time in my clock, that my screensaver up here. I'm always catching it when it's turning 55 or 555, and I love it when it's 5555. All 5 digits. But so 5s are huge, and so you capitalized in on that, and I agree. I think that somehow religion wanted to make numbers bad or evil, but God, completion and new beginnings and all of those things are in every chapter of the Bible. So I think that we maybe have been sold out a little bit on that. So I'm grateful.
I embraced them for a little bit. I was told they were called angel numbers. I started thinking, oh, I'm going to look that up. And, angel numbers. And, oh, well, this means this and that means that. And then I realized, what? I think those are somewhat human constructs. Let me take this back. Let me go back to the Bible and see what the Bible says about numbers. And now what I realize is that when I see 111 or 1111, which I saw today again,
all the
I often
time.
see 1111s. When I do, now I just give it back to God. I'm like, I know that you just touched me and I'm giving this grace and time back to you. Just thank you for being here. Thank you for everything in my life. And if you look at the quote unquote angel numbers, almost all of them come back to be present, give gratitude. All of them. Maybe it's be present, give gratitude about this area or this thing. But if you really look at what, at least the one that I was choosing to follow for a little while, most of them really came back to just be present, give gratitude. So when I do see numbers, now my first instinct is to say, thank you, God. I hear you.
And right now it's 155, and it's going to be, and just a few seconds, I'm going to tell you when it's 1:55, 45, 46. So I love that my screensaver up there gives me that, because we're going to wind down the show in just a second, but 1:55:55 right now. And I love that. So I see it so often because I do have that up there. So how do people find you, LeAnn? And any last words? Because we only got a couple minutes.
Yeah, if you do hashtag JoyMinder, JoyMinder, you'll certainly come across my posts, and my posts then are everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm heaviest on LinkedIn and Facebook, probably. I will expand into some other social media now that Nowsite is making it easy. I really, really love that. You can find me at joy-minder.com. That is the best way to find me at the moment. I'm working on some stuff around there, so I appreciate that. And let's see, at LeAnn Lyon for a lot of things. You can find me on Twitter, not super active there. You can find me on Instagram, not super active on there. And I'm now going to say yet.
Yes. And so LeAnn, capital A, but Lyon. So when the podcast comes out, which will be, I think, on October 12th, people be listening maybe instead of watching. So LeAnn Lyon.
Yeah, and catch me on my show.
And she's got a show on Mondays called
Lead with LeAnn.
Or Learn with LeAnn.
Lead with LeAnn. I toyed with changing the name recently, and I thought, no, that's just the right name. So Lead with LeAnn is at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And so we and Win Women go with Pacific times for whatever reason. I'm in Central time, so it's 4 p.m. Central, but 2 p.m. Pacific. And the same network, winwinwomen.tv. You can go to my show anytime you'd like. I do have a website about the show. I'm looking for great leaders to interview and have great conversations. And Charla, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me here today for this wonderful conversation. And Shantae, thank you for joining as well.
She's my favorite. So good. This has been so much fun. Shantae, I appreciate you showing up. We're in Texas. You're in Minnesota. We're only 110 degrees, but so we're pretty ready for a little bit of a cool down, but I'd rather be hot than cold. And that is everybody's preference, right?
In the high 90s for the next 4 days of the state fair. Just, that's how it goes.
Well, everyone, this is Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people, and everyone is fascinating. And I always want to encourage you to remember to always, always choose joy. See you next week.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. Encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.